A strange creature. Its suction cups look like the feet of a giant gecko, and they're movable too. But what does it want to suck on? With a lot of noise, it can also puff itself up and make itself mighty big. But why does it do that? Despite its height of almost 5 meters, it's extremely agile, because its habitat are narrow caves and dark passageways. And this is the master of the behemoth. When he's at the controls, it can even bend over. But what does this strange car do? And where are we here anyway? We find the answers in the hall next door. Here lies a ravenous grey giant, and it wants to be fed continuously. Every day, it devours 700 tons of mineral-rich food, mainly feldspar, quartz and lime. And from this, it makes glass. For this giant is a 2,200-ton capacity glass furnace. Its body temperature, 1600 degrees, and this is constantly checked by its own command center. That's because the giant with the glowing glass belly can upset its stomach very quickly if it gets too hot. And to make sure that in the end he turns out really faultless material, a glass-coated sliding rod stirs the glowing glass continuously, because this giant must never sleep. The special thing about this oven is that you can't turn it off. It was designed from the start to produce glass continuously for 15 years in one stretch. When it first heated up, the furnace expanded. If you turned it off again now, it would cause irreparable damage. The gigantic non-stop operator works for F-Glass in Magdeburg. It produces huge sheets of glass up to 9 meters long, and sometimes only 4 millimeters thick. Raw glass is produced here, which is used to make glass facades or solar panels. So the habitat of our suction cup monster is a gigantic world of glass. At almost 1 kilometer long, it's one of the largest glass warehouses in the world. Almost every pane stored here weighs a ton, but even the smallest scratches would make them unsellable. Loading would be too tricky for normal forklift trucks, and this is where he comes in, our vacuum lifting truck. The most important thing is to get the feet so low that I don't drive into the glass packages. I'm already roughly aligning the angle now, so that I don't have to do as much fine readjustment later. The panes are always slanted, so our suction cup vehicle has to adjust to the angle of the panes exactly. Otherwise, it won't be able to pick them up straight or generate a vacuum on the suction cups. A tricky job for the bulky vacuum cup. Sensitivity is essential here. It inches its way into position. To make sure it gets a precise grip on the glass sheet, the driver has more than just one operating console. I've got 4 consoles on the M150, 3 of them are solely for guiding the vehicle, as it's actually a very complex device. And there's 1 console just for these fine adjustments, i.e. glass frame adjustments, tilt, angle, etc. As soon as the suction cups are docked on, the vacuum truck takes a deep breath. A green button on the console indicates when the vacuum is strong enough to lift the pane. It can lift panes individually or even in entire packages. The biggest challenge, however, is unloading the glass panes. The vacuum truck can't afford to work too jerkily, because the worst-case scenario would result in a shower of broken glass. Have you ever dropped one of these panes? I certainly have. If you're lucky, the pane stays intact and you can pick it up. If not, you just have to move the glass with a brush and shovel. As perfectly adapted as it is to its glassy environment, the vacuum lifting truck can only lift loads of up to 13 tons. Its job is therefore only to pre-sort the glass sheets. To deliver larger glass packages, he needs the help of his big brother. He too is an unusual character. Viewed from above, it mainly seems to consist of one thing: a huge gap. But viewed from below, you can sense that there's a monster on the loose, one with an enormous gullet. First, he powerfully grabs his glass prey, then encloses it in his massive clamp claws, and finally rears up on his hind legs. This monstermobile answers to the rare generic name of GTR 330E. What fascinates me most about the GTR 330E is its payload. This vehicle can lift up to 33 tons in one go and also move through the aisles relatively quickly. Well, as fast as you can transport heavy glass with an electric vehicle, at a breathtaking 6 kilometers per hour. Steering the frame transporter is a very delicate operation. So that it can take up the heavy glass frame, the driver has to steer precisely down the center of the aisle. He has only a few centimeters of clearance to the right and left. The slightest impact can have fatal consequences. If one such glass package tips over, which has happened, several thousand euros are lost and gone. That's why the panes are secured with clamps. Thanks to sensors on each clamp, the transporter knows exactly how tightly it can grip the glass. They measure the exact distance to the glass and pass the data on to the hydraulics. For normal transport work, it only rears up a few centimeters. If it wanted to, however, it could heave itself up to 1.5 meters. To do this, it uses its own tires as an elevator. Then, it's off to the loading station. At the Magdeburg glass factory, 700 tons of glass have to be delivered every day. The frame transporter is a bit of a couch potato. It never goes outside, but hands over its glass frame and the panes at the loading gates. Transporting the glass to the customers outside is the job of the next strange vehicle. Let's just call it the hollow nutcase. From outside, it looks like an ordinary truck, with a tractor and 3 axles at the back. But if you look into the cargo hatch at the back, isn't there something missing? Oh yes, this truck is bottomless, but it also has clamps to secure the glass. As a so-called in-loader, it takes its cargo between the clamps, just like the mega-frame transporter. Quite practical. The open-bottom truck swallows up the entire glass frame in one go, saving on tedious reloading time. The glass rack is thus converted into the floor of the truck. Any gaps that still remain are sealed up by the driver so that neither dirt nor stones can penetrate the interior. So now it's just into the cabin, back on the road, and off to the next glass customer. And so, 3 rather strange vehicles have made sure that this fragile freight will reach its destination safely.